The snowstorm visitor. The cold wind howled like a monster outside. The snowstorm on planet Glycera was one of the worst Jack had ever seen. Thick white snow covered everything. It was hard to see even a few feet ahead. Inside his small thermal tent, Jack was wrapped in 3 layers of clothes, but he was still shivering. The wind was so strong it shook the tent like it wanted to rip it away. Jack was a human explorer. He came to Glycera on a solo research mission to study the weather and minerals. He knew it would be dangerous, but he didn't expect it to turn into a fight for survival. It was already his 3rd night stuck in the blizzard. His food was running low. His power cells were half dead. If the storm didn't stop soon, he would have to call for emergency pickup. Then, suddenly, scratch. Scratch, he froze. There it was again. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was coming from outside the tent. Jack sat up, heart pounding. It couldn't be an animal. The local animals didn't survive in this cold. Was it another explorer? That was impossible. He was alone out here. He reached for his plasma, flare just in case, and slowly moved toward the tent flap. "Hello?" he called out. "Is someone there?" No answer. The scratching stopped. Jack hesitated, then slowly unzipped the flap. Cold air rushed in like a wave of ice. And then, he saw her. A small alien girl, no older than 10 in human years, stood at the entrance. Her skin was a soft light blue, and her long silvery hair was covered in ice. She wore a thin fabric wrap around her body, torn and barely holding together. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly purple, and full of fear. She hugged her arms around herself and shivered violently. She was barefoot, standing on the frozen ground. Jack stared in shock. She was clearly freezing and couldn't survive like this much longer. "Come in," Jack said quickly, pulling her into the tent. She stumbled inside, falling against his chest, too weak to stand. Jack helped her sit down, wrapped a thermal blanket around her, and gave her the heating pad. She didn't speak, just stared at him with those wide, glowing eyes. "It's okay," he said gently. "You're safe here." She didn't answer, but she slowly curled up under the blanket. Her small body was shaking. Jack handed her a protein bar and a warm bottle of liquid nutrients. She stared at the food, sniffed it, and took a tiny bite. Jack tried speaking to her in Galactic Standard, but she didn't respond. Maybe she didn't understand it. Or maybe she was too scared to talk. She looked like she had been running for a long time. Where had she come from? Jack's tent was set far from any alien settlements. The nearest outpost was 60 kilometers away. No child could survive that kind of journey, especially not in a storm. Something was wrong. Jack sat beside her, watching carefully. Her breathing was shallow but calming. Her feet were badly frostbitten. Her hands had long, thin fingers, more delicate than a human's but clearly burned from the cold. He wrapped her hands gently in warm cloth. She flinched but didn't pull away. "You'll be okay," Jack whispered. She looked up at him, her lips trembling. She said nothing, but her eyes said more than words ever could. Trust, fear, and something else he couldn't name. That night, Jack stayed awake watching her sleep. She didn't snore, she didn't make any noise. But halfway through the night, she moved closer and rested her head on his arm. He didn't move. He didn't dare. In the middle of a deadly alien snowstorm, a human and a silent, freezing alien girl shared the warmth of a tiny tent. Jack had no idea who she was, no idea where she came from, and no idea that by letting her in, he had just stepped into something far bigger than a snowstorm. Something ancient, something sacred, and something that would change both their lives forever. Would you like me to continue with part 2? The girl with no words, in the same simple, suspenseful third-person style? The girl with no words. Jack didn't sleep that night. The storm outside had quieted, but inside the tent, his mind was spinning. The alien girl slept beside him, wrapped in his emergency blanket. Her skin had warmed up, but it still looked pale and icy blue. Her chest rose and fell softly. She looked peaceful now, But something about her still made Jack uneasy. It wasn't just fear or sadness in her eyes. It was something else, something hidden. As morning light filtered weakly through the tent walls, Jack reached for his datapad to record what had happened. But the screen was cracked. That was odd. He had packed it safely. He opened his bag and quickly checked his gear. That's when he noticed something missing. His emergency communicator was gone. Panic hit him like a slap. Without that device, he couldn't call for rescue if the storm returned. He checked again, searched under the sleeping bags, flipped his food crate. Gone. His eyes slowly turned to the girl. She was still curled up, but her hands were hidden under the blanket now. Her eyes were open, and she was watching him, very carefully. Jack crawled toward her and gently pulled back the blanket. "Hey, listen, I'm not mad, I just need the communicator, it's very important." She blinked once, then turned her head away. And that's when Jack saw it. There, just under her skin, pulsing faintly in her chest, was his communicator. No, not just placed there, absorbed into her body. What the hell? The device was glowing softly beneath her skin as if it had melted into her flesh like it belonged there. Jack didn't know if it was technology or magic, but one thing was clear. She had taken it, and somehow, she had made it part of herself. Before Jack could speak again, the girl suddenly sat up and pointed toward the tent flap. Her tiny hand glowed faintly where the communicator pulsed under her skin. She pointed again, this time more urgently. "You want to go outside?" Jack asked. "In this cold?" She nodded. That was the first time she responded. Still unsure, Jack packed a few supplies and carefully opened the flap. The wind had died down. The snow was thick but calm. The footprints from the night before had already disappeared. The girl stepped out barefoot again. "Wait. No. Your feet," Jack said, but she didn't listen. She walked ahead like she knew exactly where to go. Jack followed her through the snow, confused and nervous. He had no idea where she was leading him, or why she needed his communicator. But something in her eyes made him follow. They walked for nearly an hour, over icy ridges, past dead alien trees, through frozen fog. Finally, she stopped at the mouth of a deep crack in the ground, a crevice surrounded by glowing stones. Jack had never seen this on his map. The girl dropped to her knees, placed her glowing hand over one of the stones and began to hum. The air shimmered. The snow around them began to vibrate softly. Then, the ice split open, right in front of Jack. The ground cracked, revealing a spiral staircase made of black metal leading deep underground. Heat rose from below. He couldn't believe it. An underground facility? Hidden here? "How do you know this place?" Jack asked. The girl didn't answer. She just looked at him again with that same quiet look from the night before. Then she pointed down the stairs. She wanted him to go with her. Jack's instincts screamed at him to stop. He was a scientist, not a hero, not a fighter. But he knew something now. This girl wasn't just a lost alien child. She was connected to something much older, much deeper, and definitely not by accident. He took one deep breath and stepped onto the first stair. The air changed. Warmer, heavy, almost, like it was watching him. The girl followed close behind. They descended into the unknown. Beneath the frozen world, a new mystery waited. Jack thought he had saved a helpless girl from the snow, but now he was following her into a place that should not exist. And she, who had said nothing, was starting to lead him into something ancient, something alive. Hidden signal the metal. Stairs were cold but not frozen. Jack noticed that the deeper they went, the warmer the air became. Not natural warmth, but the kind that came from ancient machines still working underground. The girl walked ahead of him without fear. Her small glowing feet touched each stair with care, her long silver hair floating like mist behind her. The hog, communicator that had merged into her chest pulsed softly with every step they took. Jack felt like they were entering a place forgotten by time. Finally, they reached a large circular door at the bottom of the stairwell. Strange alien symbols glowed around its frame. The girl stepped forward and placed her palm against a glowing blue circle. The door didn't open with a hiss. It breathed open, like lungs releasing a long-held breath. Warm mist poured out. Inside was a giant underground chamber, half temple, half spaceship. Black metal walls curved like bones. Glowing roots ran through the floor like veins. There were strange humming sounds, as if the walls themselves were whispering. Jack stood frozen. This wasn't a building. It was alive. The girl walked to the center of the chamber where a small pillar stood. On top was an ancient, rusted crown-like device, shaped like a halo but cracked in several places. She touched it, and the entire chamber lit up. A hidden screen on the wall flickered to life. It showed images, star systems, war fleets, a destroyed empire, and finally, a child inside a glowing egg. Jack's heart stopped when he realized it. The girl was that child. This place was a sanctuary. No, more than that. It was a vault, hiding something precious, or someone. The communicator inside the girl's chest pulsed stronger now. A voice filled the room, not hers but something that spoke through her. Last royal seed detected. Signal initialized. Jack stumbled back. "What do you mean, royal seed?" he whispered. The girl turned to face him. Her eyes were no longer purple. They glowed with burning gold. She didn't speak with her mouth, but the words entered his mind. "I was never meant to survive the war. I was hidden, to be reborn. And you were the only one kind enough to awaken me." Jack shook his head. "I didn't awaken anything. I just gave you shelter. Shelter is sacred in my people's law. Heat means union. You offered life. That makes you my bond." Jack was speechless. He had thought she was just a lost alien girl in the snow. But now he saw the truth. She was the last living royal of a forgotten alien empire, and by saving her, he had done more than just rescue a child. He had become part of something sacred. She stepped closer. "There is more," her voice echoed in his head. "The signal. It calls others. My enemies will come. They will sense the beacon." A low hum filled the chamber. Lights blinked red. Jack turned to the screen. A timer appeared, signal broadcasting in 2317, 2316. "Oh no," Jack muttered. "You just turned on a galactic flare." She nodded. "To restore my kind, I had to risk calling danger." He looked at her, still just a child in size, but now a queen in truth. "And me? What do I do now?" She looked at him gently. "Stay. Help me survive. Help me return." Jack stood still for a moment. He came here for science, for adventure. But what he found was destiny, and he couldn't walk away from that now. He looked at the crown on the pillar. "What is that?" She answered. "The memory ring. It stores all that we were. If I wear it, I become who I was meant to be." She reached out, but her hand trembled. She wasn't ready, so Jack picked it up and slowly placed it on her head. The chamber burst into golden light. She screamed, not in pain, but in power, as ancient knowledge rushed back into her. And then, silence. She opened her eyes. They were no longer a child's. Far above the frozen land, hidden ships began to stir. Enemies. Hunters. The ones who had tried to erase her bloodline. They had just felt the signal. They were coming. And this time, she wasn't alone. The ice cave secret, for a moment. Nothing moved. The underground chamber glowed with golden light. The ancient memory ring rested on the alien girl's head like a crown of stars. Her eyes shone brighter than before. She stood taller now, not in height, but in presence. She was still small and fragile looking, but somehow, she now felt like a leader, A queen. A storm waiting to rise. Jack watched her silently. He didn't know whether to bow, speak, or run. She turned to him slowly. My name is Thaela Rin, last daughter of House Velerith. Jack swallowed. That name sounds like royalty. It was, she said softly. Long before the war. Jack felt dizzy. And the war ended because your people were wiped out? She nodded. And I was hidden here, frozen in stasis as an egg, and until now. You woke me when you shared warmth. You fulfilled the binding code. Jack didn't know what the binding code was, but it didn't sound small. Before he could ask more questions, the chamber trembled. Boom! The sound echoed from above, a distant explosion. Jack rushed to the ancient screen. It showed a satellite view of the land above the ice. 3 dark shapes were falling from orbit. Enemy ships. They had found the signal. They were coming fast. We need to leave, Jack shouted. Thaela Rin didn't move. No. We go deeper. Deeper? He blinked. We're already inside. An alien ship. She raised her hand and pressed her palm against the floor. A glowing circle opened and a new path revealed itself. A spiral staircase, leading further below. There's something hidden beneath even this, she said. Jack looked down the new stairwell. The air coming from it felt heavier, ancient, as if something massive was sleeping below. He nodded. Okay, let's go. They descended quickly. The deeper they went, the darker it became, until they entered a cave that wasn't metal anymore. It was pure crystal. The walls sparkled with colors Jack had never seen. Holograms flickered between the crystals, visions of ancient battles, worlds burned to ash, and a massive creature wrapped in chains. Jack stopped. What is that? He asked, pointing at the creature in the vision. Thaela Rin stepped closer. That was our protector. The old ones called it Yishael, the silent flame, a living weapon. It only awakens when the queen returns. You mean you? Yes. Jack turned to the center of the chamber. In a deep pit lay something enormous, curled like a sleeping dragon. Its body was part crystal, part bone, part light. Long metallic. Chains held it in place, glowing with ancient power. It's not moving, Jack whispered. It needs a command, she said. From one who carries the royal memory. Thaela Rin stepped to the edge of the pit. She raised both hands and sang, her voice soft but full of pain and power. The chains began to crack. The crystal shook. Jack stepped back as a low rumble echoed through the entire cave. Yishael opened its eyes. They were like 2 burning stars. Looked at Thaela Rin, then at Jack, and spoke not with words but with thought. My queen has returned, and the fire shall rise again. Above ground, the enemy ships landed on the frozen plains. Dark armored figures stepped out. Hunters, merciless, powerful, and cold. They scanned the land. One of them growled, "The bloodline has awakened. Kill the human. Bring us the girl alive." Back in the cave, Yishael slowly lifted its body. It was weak from ages of sleep, but still powerful. Jack looked up in awe. What can it do? Thaela Rin looked at him with a strange mix of sadness and hope. It can burn the sky if I ask it to. But will you? I will only burn what must be cleansed. Suddenly, her voice faltered. Blood dripped from her nose. The crown on her head sparked. The memory ring, Jack said, rushing to her. It's hurting you. It's too much, she whispered. My body is still that of a child. But the crown holds memories of hundreds of queens. Jack caught her before she collapsed. He pulled off the crown gently. Thaela Rin gasped. Breathing freely again, she looked at him with gratitude. You saved me. Again. Jack smiled, but there was no time to rest. Far above, the hunters were drilling into the ground. They would break through soon. Jack turned to the great beast in the pit. We need your help. Yishael roared, softly, but with a promise. A storm was coming, and this time, The human would not face it alone. Chosen by the bond. The cave trembled again. Snow fell from the cracks above as the alien hunters drilled deeper into the ice. Their weapons were strong, too strong for a child queen and a single human explorer to stop alone. But this wasn't just a cave anymore. It was a throne room buried in time, and deep within it, something old had awakened. Ishael, the massive creature of crystal and flame, stood quietly watching. Its chained body glowed softly, waiting for its queen's next command. But Thyla Rin lay weak in Jack's arms, her small frame trembling. "The crown, it's too heavy for me," she whispered, voice shaking. "I am not ready." Jack looked at her, this girl who had once been a mystery in the snow. Now she was royalty, sacred to an ancient race, and hunted by beings who feared what she could become. "You're not alone anymore," Jack said softly. "Let me help." Her golden eyes flickered. "You already did. You warmed me when I was cold. You carried me when I could not stand. That is our bond now." Jack blinked. "Bond?" She slowly reached for his hand. As their skin touched, the communicator under her chest lit up, and a spark passed between them. Not pain, not fire, connection. And then, something ancient woke inside Jack. Visions filled his mind, memories not his own, fields of stars, thrones of crystal. A tall alien queen, not Thyla Rin, but someone from her bloodline standing beside a human warrior. They were bonded, soul to soul. Jack fell backward, gasping. "What was that?" Thyla Rin's voice echoed in his head. "You are now my guardian, chosen by the bond, the protector of the royal flame. You carry half of the key." Jack stared at his palm. A burning mark had appeared, glowing gold, shaped like the crest above the memory ring. Suddenly, Yishel let out a soft roar. Chains around its limbs cracked and shattered. It stood fully for the first time in centuries. But instead of destroying the ceiling or unleashing fire, the beast slowly knelt before Jack. "Protector has been chosen," it said in a deep voice that echoed in the crystals. "Give the command. I shall obey." Jack felt frozen, not by cold but by awe. "I don't know how to command you." Thyla Rin, now kneeling beside him, whispered, "You don't need to speak like a king. Just protect me, and mean it." The mark on Jack's hand pulsed. Above. Then boom! The hunters broke through the first barrier of the cave. Jack clenched his fist. "Protect her," he said, and Yishael rose like a storm. Above the ice, 3 hunters stepped down into the dark tunnel. Their armor shimmered, their eyes glowed red, one sniffed the air. "The Guardian has awakened. Impossible," another growled. "Then we will tear him apart." They moved quickly, weapons raised, but they didn't know what was waiting below. In the crystal chamber, Jack helped Thyla Rin stand. She leaned on him, her eyes calm but sharp. "Are you afraid?" she asked. Jack smiled. "A little." "So am I," she said softly. "But when I'm close to you, the fear feels smaller." They walked toward the heart of the chamber, where the final defense system rested, a raised platform surrounded by floating lights. Yishael stood beside it, waiting for the invaders. Jack turned to the girl and whispered, "If we don't make it—" She interrupted. "Don't say that." Jack nodded. "Then let's make sure we do." A high-pitched shriek echoed through the stairwell. The hunters had entered the temple. They came down fast. 3 shadows, twice the height of a man, stomped into the crystal room. They saw the girl, the human, the beast, and they laughed. "You think a human can stop us?" one growled. Jack stepped forward. "No," he said, lifting his marked hand. "But I'm not just a human anymore." The moment he said that, the chamber reacted. The floating lights turned red. The platform activated. Energy swirled around Jack and Thyla Rin like wind. Yishael roared, standing between them and the hunters. The first one charged. Yishael leapt. Fire met blade. Claws met metal. The room became a battleground of light and echoes. Jack shielded Thala Rin as a blast hit the side wall. The memory ring sparked again, and power surged through the girl's body. Her voice returned, not in whispers but in a commanding tone. "No one harms my guardian." She raised her hand and released a wave of light. The lead hunter screamed and flew back, armor cracking. The hunters realized too late. They weren't facing a child and a man. They were facing the rebirth of a queen and her chosen protector. And the war that once destroyed a race had just found its second chapter. The hunters arrive. The fire was fading. Yishael, the great beast of crystal and flame, had already fought hard. Its chest pulsed dimly now, energy weakening. Even with its power, the battle wasn't easy. The alien hunters were stronger than Jack expected. Smarter, too. One of them, taller, armored in black with a jagged red crest, had stayed behind during the first attack. Now he entered the crystal chamber with calm, measured steps. Jack stood in front of Thala Rin, his marked hand glowing, his body tense. She was standing again, pale but stronger. The memory ring now hovered just above her head, reacting to her emotions. The red-crested hunter looked at them both and smiled. "I've waited a long time for this moment," he said in broken galactic standard. Thala Rin narrowed her glowing golden eyes. I remember you. You were one of the royal guards." Jack blinked. "Wait, he was one of your guards?" The hunter didn't deny it. He took off his helmet slowly, revealing a scarred face, purple skin faded with age, and piercing, red eyes. "I was once loyal to your mother," he said, "but she left us to die. I saw the Empire fall. I saw you sealed in that egg." Thala Rin whispered. "You turned against us." "I survived," he growled. "I adapted. You should have stayed frozen." Yishael stepped forward with a low growl, but the traitor raised his hand and suddenly, the chains from the cave floor shot up again. They wrapped around the beast's legs and neck, dragging it down. Thala Rin screamed. "No!" Jack rushed forward to help, but the traitor slammed a black crystal into the ground. A wave of dark energy threw Jack backward, slamming him against the crystal wall. His vision blurred. "Jack!" Thala Rin cried out. The traitor looked at her with twisted calm. "I don't want to kill you, child. I want to use you. With your blood, I can control the vaults. I will rebuild a new empire, one that serves me." She clenched her fists. "You will never control me." "You're just a child," he sneered. But then, she smiled. "No," she said. "I'm not alone." Jack stood back up. His hand was bleeding. His back hurt, but the mark on his palm burned brighter than ever, and then he felt it again. The bond. A wave of energy rushed between him and Thala Rin. Her body glowed gold. His mark turned to flame, and the chamber itself began to react. The memory ring spun faster. The crystals in the wall cracked open to reveal floating orbs of ancient energy. Yishael roared and broke one chain free, pushing up despite the pressure. Jack stepped forward, fists clenched. "You made one mistake," the traitor snarled. "What?" "You thought the bond was weak." Jack raised his hand and the chamber exploded with light and sound. A wall of protective energy wrapped around Thala Rin, and her voice became thunder. "I claim the Guardian's right." The traitor tried to back away, but the floor beneath him glowed with a symbol, the crest of the royal house. He screamed as he was pulled to the center of the chamber, pinned by light. Thala Rin floated slightly above the ground, her tiny body surrounded by a storm of memory, energy, and fire. "I forgive you for surviving," she said calmly. "But I will not let you steal the future." Jack stepped beside her. They stood as one, queen and guardian. Their hands touched, and Yishael broke free. With one final roar, the ancient beast released a wave of burning light that engulfed the traitor and his remaining hunter guards. No screams, just silence. The chamber dimmed. The threat was gone. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then Thyla Rin fell to her knees, exhausted. Jack rushed to catch her. "You did it," he whispered. "No," she said softly. "We did." He smiled. "Nice speech, by the way." She gave him a tired laugh. It wasn't a speech. It was a promise. But deep beneath the crystal throne, something stirred. A final signal had been sent. Far across the galaxy, in dark corners of space. Others were watching, and now, they knew she was alive. Not just warmth, but destiny. Silence fell over the crystal chamber. The battle was over. The enemy hunters were gone. The traitor who once guarded her family now lay as dust, vanished in the storm of light. The great protector Yishael had returned to its slumber, its duty fulfilled for now. But Jack could feel something in the air. It wasn't peace. It was change. He held Thyla Rin close. Her breathing was weak, but steady. She had given all her strength to defend what was sacred. Not just her life, but her people's memory, their pride, their story. Jack laid her gently on the floating platform. "Rest," he said softly. "I can't," she whispered. "The galaxy, it knows now. They'll come." Jack nodded. "Then let them come. You won't face them alone." She smiled faintly. "I was born alone, raised in ice. But somehow, your warmth woke me." He sat beside her. "You thought I was just a stranger?" She turned her head, eyes glowing dim gold. "No. You were the spark. The one thing we had forgotten. Kindness." They sat in silence for a few moments, surrounded by the hum of ancient power. Then the crystals around the chamber pulsed again. A new screen appeared on the wall. Galactic transmissions. Thousands of signals, some from far planets, some from dead empires, some from species Jack had never even seen before. One word echoed through them all. "The Queen has returned." In a black star system, light years away, a council of cloaked figures watched the signal. One leaned forward. "Activate the fleet." On a peaceful green moon, a group of alien children looked up at the sky. One child whispered, "She's real." Inside a hidden warship, a female general crushed her wineglass. "Prepare the assassins." All across the galaxy, hope and fear awoke together. And at the center of it all, a human and an alien girl sat inside a broken memory temple. Thyla Rin looked at Jack, her voice barely above a whisper. "You should leave. They'll come for me now." "I'm not leaving," Jack said. "You don't belong in this war." Jack leaned closer. "I didn't belong in a snowstorm either, but I was there. And I saw a little girl barefoot freezing. I opened my tent and gave her warmth." She blinked slowly, eyes misting. "You saved me." He touched her hand. "And you saved me too." A warm silence fell again. Then, boom. The ceiling shook. Not enemy fire, but something new. The roof opened slowly, petals of crystal folding back to reveal the sky above. No longer gray and storming, but glowing with dawn light. A ramp extended from the platform up to the surface. It was time to rise. Yishael returned, body glowing softly, and lowered itself for Thyla Rin to climb. Jack helped her up. "Where are we going?" "To be seen," she said. "To be known. To tell the galaxy I am not afraid." He walked beside her. "Will they believe you?" Jack asked. She looked at him, her voice now calm and royal again. "They will when they see you." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Me?" "You're the proof," she said, "that even after everything was lost and there is still one thing that can save a world." He waited. She said it softly. "Kindness." As they rose to the surface, sunlight fell on their faces. The snow had stopped. The storm was gone, and the ice had begun to melt around the ancient valley, revealing old ruins, temples, statues, cities long buried. A whole history, waiting to be told again. and at the center of it all walked a girl queen and her guardian. A signal was sent again, this time not a cry for help, but a message of return. The bloodline lives, the bond is formed, we are not broken anymore. Jack looked at Thyla Rin. She looked ahead toward the rising light. This wasn't just about survival. This was the start of a new legend, not just about aliens, not just about humans, but about two souls from different stars who found each other, not through war, not through fear, but through a single act of warmth in a deadly snowstorm. And that moment changed everything.